My daughter looked me straight in the eye and spoke words that left me numb. "You've done enough. The only wedding gift you can give us now is to disappear from our lives forever. Or if you prefer, go to a nursing home, that's where useless people belong." She sneered a cold, arrogant smile right there in the kitchen I'd paid for, wearing the wedding dress I'd bought. Every word she said cut into me like a knife. What she didn't know was that the real power wasn't in her hands. I would disappear, just as she wanted, but before I left I only had to pick up the phone and make one call. That call would tear apart the perfect world she thought she owned. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from, because the truth I'm about to reveal about my daughter will leave you speechless, no matter where you are. Vanessa Caldwell's words hit me like a bucket of cold water, echoing through the kitchen that had once been warm and now felt like a cold courtroom. Neon light washed pale across the white wedding dress hanging behind her, a warped symbol of the family's mistakes. Forks and knives still clinked in the sink, a metallic accompaniment to the sentence she was about to pass. "Say it straight, Dad," Vanessa sneered, the corner of her mouth curving like a blade into my heart. "You're nothing but a burden. The best wedding gift you can give us is to disappear from our lives forever. Or better yet, put yourself in a nursing home where you belong. At least there's someone will get paid to put up with you. We won't." She paused, her eyes flashing with malice. "You're just a ghost haunting us." Behind her, Marcus Hale nodded, his eyes empty as if he'd forgotten that I was the one who put a roof over their heads. He added, with a light but vicious sarcasm, "If he really wants to give a wedding present, at least give us everlasting silence." I looked around the kitchen. The gleaming granite countertops I had chosen no longer symbolized togetherness. They felt like a tombstone for my foolishness. The custom cabinetry had been paid for with $120,000, my life savings. Standing there in that room, I realized the truth. I no longer belonged here. "Where am I supposed to go now?" I asked, my voice calm though a storm raged outside. Thunder rolled in the distance like the drums of a trial in which I was the only defendant. Vanessa idly inspected her glossy nails and shrugged. "Don't know. Don't care. A hotel, a nursing home, anywhere but here. This is my house now, and I'm sick of pretending to tolerate you." Silence pressed so hard I could hear the second hand of the clock move. Then I answered quietly but with finality, "Yes, you're right, completely right." Vanessa started, surprised. She had expected tears, pleas, or an outburst she could dismiss as Dad overreacting. But I only nodded, coldly. "I'll go. I'll pack and be gone within an hour." Marcus actually seemed relieved, probably for the best. "After the honeymoon, we can talk when things calm down." Talk after the honeymoon, as if this were nothing more than a seating dispute, not the moment my daughter had declared her father worthless. Upstairs, in the guest room, never really mine, because guests leave, I folded my clothes into a suitcase. Rain lashed the window and thunder scored the farewell music. I placed a photograph of Margaret Caldwell, my late wife, into the case, a silent vow that I would no longer let anyone trample my dignity. Downstairs I could hear Vanessa and Marcus laughing, planning to renovate my room into a yoga studio or home office. Not a flicker of guilt, not a hint of compassion, but they did not know, at this very moment the gears were clicking into place, and one single decision was all it would take to topple the perfect world they so gleefully inhabited. I paused for a long moment in front of Margaret Caldwell's photograph on the mantel, 51 years of marriage, and she had never once made me feel like an outsider in my own home. Her eyes in the frame seemed to watch me, lending me one last ounce of strength. "Don't worry, my love," I whispered to her image. "I won't give up without a fight." But before I fought, there were a few phone calls I had to make. I sat in the car, parked outside the house, more precisely. Outside the house my money had bought. Streetlights streaked across the windshield. Darkness swallowed everything around me while the interior of the house glowed, laughter spilling out as if from another world. Wind whistled through the eaves. Insects slipped into the quiet space. My heart thudded. My palms were sweaty. But my voice when I dialed was calm to the point of cold. I punched in Clara Whitmore's emergency number. The irony was cruel. I was calling from the threshold of the home I was no longer allowed to enter. Clara, this is Henry Caldwell. I need you to pull every file on Vanessa's house, purchase every document, every contract, every receipt. My tone was rough but steady. There was a short silence. Even at 10:15 on a Wednesday night, Clara's legal mind was still humming. What's happened with Vanessa and Marcus, Henry? I told her everything, the brutal ultimatum Vanessa had issued, demanding that I disappear forever. Marcus's contemptuous shrug that my contribution was just a bit of money from before, the way they brushed aside my sacrifices as easily as one wipes chalk from a sidewalk. Clara listened without interruption. I could hear her fingers tapping furiously at a keyboard on the other end of the line. Henry, she said at last, her voice firm to the point of chill, I've been worried about this for months. They treated your investment like a gift, but that's not the legal nature of the transaction. I don't understand, I blurted, my stomach dropping. The silence stretched. Didn't you sign other documents? The forms I had you sign when you raised concerns about Vanessa's spending? Clara asked, her tone equal parts reproach and professional concern. A flood of paperwork from 3 years earlier washed over me exhausted amid piles of forms, Clara insisting she protect my interests, me skimming things hurriedly to preserve family peace. Clara, don't tell me I signed my own sentence. The words escaped, hoarse with fear and anger. Clara sighed, then spoke each word like a verdict. Henry, that $120,000 was never a gift. Legally, it was an investment structured as a loan, and your name is on the deed as a co-owner. Vanessa failed to return the confirmation forms I sent repeatedly. The mortgage company lists you as a co-borrower. The paperwork proves your ownership legal and binding. I nearly dropped the phone. Through the kitchen window on the other side of the glass, I could see Vanessa showing her wedding dress to someone on a video call, probably a bridesmaid, laughing and waving, utterly carefree, while this conversation might change her life. Her laughter rang like fingernails on glass, piercing and cruel. Are you certain? I asked, my voice ragged. Certain to a depressing degree, Clara replied. Vanessa keeps forgetting to sign forms. You've been far too focused on keeping the peace to push. The mortgage records list you as co-borrower. The deed shows your ownership. Everything is fully legal. I watched Marcus appear in the video window, popping a champagne cork. The pop sounded like the alarm for the disaster they didn't yet know was coming. He raised his glass to Vanessa, celebrating their freedom from a burden, the phrase they used for me. Clara, what if I want to sell my share? I asked, forcing myself to stay calm. As a co-owner, you can compel a sale, she explained with the practiced clarity of her trade. The other owners have a right of first refusal at market price. If they can't buy, the house will be put on the open market and the proceeds divided according to ownership percentages. I thought of the frenzied real estate market in Monterey. The house was worth at least $400,000. 52% of that sum is more than $135,000, many times what I had put in, enough to restore the dignity that had been trampled. Clara, prepare a notice of intent to sell. I want it sent Monday morning, I said, my voice edged like steel. Henry, are you sure? Once we start. Clara hesitated. She knew this would cause an earthquake. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, I replied, without a flicker of doubt. This is not merely a decision, Clara. This is a judgment. They want me to vanish? Fine. But I will take my 52% with me. After I hung up, darkness closed over the car. I sat there, looking at the roofline where I had once cooked family dinners, feeling a calm whirlpool of resolve inside me. They clinked glasses to toast their future inside, unaware that in less than 60 hours their laughter would turn into screams of despair, and I would be the hand that flipped the switch on that storm. But first, there was one more call I had to make. My second call was to the Crystal Bay Country Club. The irony was harsh. I was calling to cancel my own daughter's wedding from the driveway of the house that was about to be taken from her. In the car, streetlights slashed across the windshield, reflecting my face, a father abandoned, now becoming judge over his own family. From inside the house, wedding music and laughter spilled out, making the call in the dark feel all the heavier. Crystal Bay, this is Jessica. How may I help you? Hello, Jessica. This is Henry Caldwell. I need to cancel tomorrow's wedding reception. There was the rustle of papers, and Jessica's voice trembled slightly. Cancel? But sir, it's less than 18 hours away. The food is prepared, and the staff are scheduled. I understand, I replied, gripping the phone. And I am willing to pay any cancellation fees. I am the one who signed the contract and made the deposit. I have every right to change it. They want me gone from their lives, so I will do exactly that, starting with this wedding. There was a beat of silence, then Jessica blurted, Are you sure? This will be a disaster for the event. I'm more sure than I've ever been. 30 minutes later, I checked into the Seaside Inn across town. The small hotel was nothing luxurious, but it brought me a strange peace, a complete contrast to the flashy, icy house I had paid for. Through the window, the lights of Monterey twinkled below like false stars, but to me they were the light of freedom. I ordered a steak, opened a small bottle of wine from the minibar, and settled into the chair by the window. For the first time since Margaret died, I felt like I was reclaiming control of my life. Tomorrow, while Vanessa and Marcus scrambled to explain to 300 guests why there would be no reception, I would take a leisurely breakfast and read the Sunday paper like a gentleman. Among those guests would be distant relatives who once saw me as the family pillar. They would witness this collapse not because of me, but because of Vanessa's greed. I closed my eyes and thought of Margaret, the woman who always kept the peace. She used to say, "Sometimes, Henry, love means setting boundaries, even with family." I remembered when she cut off her sister for 8 months over a spiteful remark. She had her limits too. I raised my glass to the memory of her. You were right, Margaret. It's time love had limits. Tonight, I am the limit. The steak was perfect, the wine warm, but each slow, deliberate cut through the meat felt like I was severing the ties that had bound me for 3 years. For the first time in months, I did not have to walk on eggshells or choose every word to avoid Vanessa's fury or Marcus's contempt. I was simply a man sitting in silence, enjoying a peaceful meal, and as I took the final sip of wine, I thought of that house of the 52% ownership they had no idea I held. I could almost hear, in my imagination, the thunderous collapse when they realized that the reception, the house, and the family's reputation were all in my hands. The wedding would still go on tomorrow, but not the lavish reception. 300 guests would witness the vows and then disperse, confused when there was no party to follow. A flicker of guilt passed through me. These were innocent people who'd flown in from all over, brought gifts, arranged babysitters, booked hotels. Then Vanessa's words echoed in my head. You're nothing but a burden. The best wedding present you could give us is to disappear forever. Fine, I would give her exactly what she asked for. Outside the Seaside Inn, the streetlights guttered, the Monterey night sea churning like an omen. Inside the room, the silence was so complete I could hear the clock ticking, each second stretched like a strand of judgment. At 12:28 a.m., the phone ripped through that stillness like a bell of sentence. "What have you done?" Vanessa screamed, her voice so high I had to hold the handset away from my ear. "What the hell did you do?" I set my glass down and muted the TV. "I only did exactly what you asked for, my daughter. You wanted me out of this family, so I'm getting out. The club called me. They say you canceled our reception. Our reception? There are 300 people expecting the party tomorrow. Sounds like an awkward situation." "An awkward situation?" Her voice broke. "This is the most important day of my life. You can't ruin our wedding because you're upset about where you'll sleep." I almost laughed, still trying to minimize her guilt, turning everything into a question of lodgings rather than the fact that she had called me worthless. "Vanessa, you can still walk down the aisle. You can still say your vows. I only canceled the reception that I was paying for." "Paying? What do you mean, paying? That reception cost me $33,000. Do you think the club runs charity events for you?" Silence, a stunned silence. $33,000. Her voice was almost a whisper. Venue, catering, flowers, the band, the photographer. You think all that's free, Vanessa? You think money sprouts from trees just because you want a fairy tale wedding? I heard Marcus shouting from the background, panicked. How much did she say? 33,000 for one day. We can't tell 300 people there's no reception. Vanessa began to sob, a ripping wail that stripped the perfect bride veneer off, revealing the spoiled child screaming because her toy was taken away. People have flown in from everywhere. My college friends, Marcus's family from Boston, Dad's old neighbors from Monterey. You are adults. I trust you can figure something out. I hear McDonald's does events these days. This is not funny. Marcus snatched the phone. Henry, be sensible. You're not just ruining our wedding, you're destroying our family. A family squabble? My voice went cold. Your wife said the best wedding present I could give was to disappear forever. She called me a burden. You agreed with her. This is not a quarrel, Marcus. This is the moment I finally understand my place. She didn't mean that literally. Really? I heard it very clearly when she told me I should put myself in a nursing home. Whispers of panic rose behind the line. I could picture them in the kitchen I'd paid for, scrambling to patch the perfect wedding. Listen. Marcus lowered his voice, trying to be conciliatory. We can sort this out after the wedding, but right now we need the reception. Can you call the club back and say, it was all a misunderstanding, that you didn't really mean to cancel the $33,000 reception? No misunderstanding, Marcus. It was a business decision made by the person paying for it all. Vanessa snatched the phone back, venom in her words. You turned the most important day of my life into a joke. People will remember you as the destroyer, not as a father. You've treated me like an ATM for 3 years. True love supports. What you've given me is humiliation wrapped in sugar. I moved to the window. Below, streetlights bled on the wet pavement. For a moment, an image of little Vanessa running to me after a tumble flashed in my mind, then it dimmed, swallowed by the harsh reality of being called a burden. $142,000, Marcus croaked. Yes, I replied. The deposit on the house and all the emergencies over the years, car repairs, credit card bills, groceries, bills. Do you think some money fairy put cash under your pillow? A silence so long I thought they'd hung up. At last Vanessa spoke, small and hollow. What do you want from us? I want what you gave me tonight, to disappear from this family. And when I go, I'll be taking my money with me. Your wedding is just a prelude to the troubles coming your way. At 9 a.m. there was a furious knocking on my hotel door. I peered through the peephole. Marcus in a wrinkled tux shirt, eyes ringed red, his bow tie hanging loose. We need to talk. He staggered in. Vanessa's completely broken. She locked herself in the bathroom and won't come out. Friends are asking questions we can't answer. Everything's falling apart. Footsteps I knew sounded in the hall. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, silk sleepwear, wedding makeup smeared, eyes puffy with tears. The dim light through the half-drawn curtains caught her face, twisted with rage. The bitter scent of coffee rose in the room, masking the acrid smell of betrayal. "You selfish bastard!" she shouted, shoving Marcus aside and storming in. "How dare you ruin my wedding? Good morning, daughter. I thought you were collapsing in the bathroom. Don't mock me." The sweet bride mask fell away to show the venom beneath. "Do you know what you've done? My friends think we're bankrupt. Marcus's family is ashamed. The photographer is asking if we'll still pay him." I poured another cup of coffee, the bitter aroma rising. "I'm sorry about your awkward situation." "Awkward situation?" She lunged, her face contorted. "You've destroyed everything, all the plans, all my dreams, just because you couldn't bear to hear the truth." "The truth?" I set the cup down and looked her straight in the eye. "What truth, Vanessa?" That you're a burden, that we're tired of walking on eggshells around you, that this is our house, our life, and we don't need you pulling us down." That was the real Vanessa, no more crocodile tears, only cold calculation. "Thank you for your honesty," I said quietly. "Now let me be honest with you." "Henry, maybe," Marcus tried to interrupt. "Shut up, Marcus." Vanessa hissed, eyes fixed on me. This is between my father and me. Your father has given you $142,000 over 3 years, I said slowly. He sold his dream home to give you the deposit. He's funded your lifestyle since you moved in. We're grateful. No, you're indulgent. You take my money, my sacrifice, and offer nothing in return, not respect, not gratitude, not even the bare minimum of decency. Vanessa laughed, a biting sound. Bare minimum of decency? You mean not ruining my wedding out of spite? I mean not telling your father to disappear forever. Because that's the truth, she yelled. You are a burden. We'd be better off without your judgment and guilt. The room sagged. Even Marcus looked stunned at his wife's cruelty. Then, I said softly, you're about to get what you asked for. I turned to the misty Monterey coastline. There's one thing about that house you never cared to read. The legal paperwork you never looked at. What are you talking about? Her voice had deflated from fury to exhaustion. I own 52% of that house, and I'm putting it on the market. The color drained from Vanessa's face. No, my lawyer told me the investment was protected. You forgot to sign the confirmation forms. You thought you'd shut every door, Vanessa. But you left one latch undone, and it's in my hands. The paperwork shows my ownership, completely legal and binding. Vanessa staggered back. You can't do that. I can and I will. You wanted me gone? Fine. But I'm taking $142,000 with me. We'll fight you, she whispered. With what? When you can't even cover the current costs? Hope the wedding envelopes are thick enough. I closed with, tomorrow, everyone will see the truth. Your wedding was a cheap stage built with my money. And I just pulled down the curtain. The phone rang at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, shattering the golden silence of sunlight filtering through the curtains. I was having lunch at the hotel when the shrill tone cut through like a storm warning. Mr. Henry Caldwell? This is Inspector Daniel Lopez from the Monterey County Police Department. We've received a report of elder abuse. We need to arrange a welfare check. If you refuse to cooperate, we will be forced to initiate compulsory procedures. My chest burned, my knuckles whitening as I gripped the receiver. Inspector, my mind is clearer than it has ever been, and I will show you who the real abusers are. Very well, sir. The caller stated that your family is concerned about erratic behavior and signs of memory loss. Would tomorrow at 8 a.m. work? That works. And I have much to present, just not in the way they've described. I hung up and immediately dialed Clara Whitmore. Clara, the police just called. They're accusing me of senility. For the first time, her professional calm cracked. Henry, I've been digging into Vanessa and Marcus's records. I've found something that could change everything. Meet me in an hour. Bring every financial document you have. The cold neon light in her office spilled across a table stacked with papers, like the scene of a crime. Clara dropped a thick file onto the surface, the thud as sharp as a gavel. Let me ask you directly, Henry. Have you ever applied for Medicaid assistance for low-income seniors? I was never eligible. My assets were far too high. A thin, razor-like smile flickered across her lips. That's what I thought too. But according to these records, for the past 3 years, someone has been filing under your name to receive Medicaid benefits, totaling $50,000. My stomach clenched. Blood pounded in my ears until every other sound vanished. The words blurred on the page as though trying to drown me. That's impossible. And worse, Clara continued, sliding another set of statements across the table. The benefits were deposited directly into an account opened by Vanessa, using your Social Security number. Here it is, Medicare fraud. A federal crime. She claimed you had no assets or income, concealing everything in order to siphon welfare intended for the poor. She did what? And not only that. Clara flipped through more documents. Vanessa's signature is on every form. She declared herself your legal guardian and financial power of attorney despite the fact you never granted her that authority. She certified that you were senile and living in poverty. I stared at the lines on the page. Fleeting images of Vanessa as a child surfaced, then dissolved, leaving behind only an icy void. A perfect double play, I rasped. To my face she demanded money. and before the government she turned me into a pitiable ghost to squeeze out even more. Clara nodded, her voice sharp as judgment. Henry, you are no longer just the victim. You now hold the rope that can tighten around their entire lives. The penalties? Repayment of $50,000, plus fines often doubled or tripled. In this case, total liability could reach $142,000, not including up to 10 years in federal prison. And this isn't just financial fraud, it's forgery of federal documents. I drew in a long breath and looked out the office window. Monterey lay quiet, ordinary families eating their Sunday dinners, and here I was, preparing to flip the switch on a storm. If I take this to the feds, Vanessa and Marcus will go to prison. Their credit ruined. Everything lost, including the house. Clara stacked the files neatly, the room dropping a few degrees colder. Tomorrow, when Inspector Lopez arrives, they won't be asking whether you're of sound mind. You'll show them who has truly lost all reason to greed. I nodded. Good. Tomorrow morning I'll tell a different story, with evidence. Police station, Tuesday morning. A fluorescent tube cast a narrow circle of light across the metal table, picking out a stack of bank statements. The rest of the room sank into half-darkness, punctuated only by a ticking clock and the rhythmic tap of a pen on a file cover. Inspector Daniel Lopez peered at me over his glasses, businesslike and blunt. Mr. Henry Caldwell, someone reported you as incapacitated. I'm here to check. I opened my briefcase and laid out the documents in neat rows. Checks, transfer orders, credit card statements I had paid on their behalf. For the past 3 years, I've given my daughter and son-in-law $142,000. Would you like to see the records? I asked. His eyebrows rose slightly. He flipped each page, the pen tapping talk like small hammers whenever he marked something. That's a large sum. I am of sound mind, I said evenly, and today I'm here to show you who has been exploited. I played the voicemail from Vanessa Caldwell from the night before. Dad, this is crazy. We're worried about you. Lopez made a note and looked up. Do you have a history of memory loss? No. I manage my own finances and live independently. The only thing that's changed is I stopped letting them take advantage. 20 minutes later he set the pen down, voice firm. You are of sound mind and have financial capacity. I will close this case as a false report, Mr. Caldwell. I nodded. Still, there is financial abuse here, just not the kind they reported. 5 The dock is no viver visitor. Clara Whitmore's law office. Noon. The aroma of strong coffee mixed with the smell of printer ink. The computer hummed, and thick stacks of files lay on the table like evidence at a crime scene. The desk lamp threw a hard, yellow light across the forms, making every printed word gleam like proof. Vanessa Caldwell and Marcus Hale arrived late, summoned into the room like defendants. Vanessa's eyes were red. Marcus stared at his phone screen. Clara wasted no time. She set a thick file down with a dry thud, as if pounding a gavel. The matter with the police is closed. Inspector Lopez found no sign of cognitive decline. This is the real offense. She slid a sheaf of forms toward them. Vanessa, do you recognize this signature? Vanessa went pale. I don't know what that is. Clara tapped her pen on the heading, her voice cool. These are federal forms you signed, claiming your father was destitute and mentally incapacitated to obtain Medicaid benefits. Over 3 years, $50,000 flowed into an account you opened using Henry's Social Security number. That is Medicare fraud and forgery of federal documents. Marcus croaked, impossible. While he was handing over his life savings, you told the government he was poor and helpless. Clara turned another page and pointed to the power of attorney box. You even listed yourself as his legal guardian and financial agent despite there being no such authorization. Vanessa swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. You can't prove I knew what I was signing. Clara was composed. Bank statements show luxury spending, spas, designer goods, restaurants. The money trail is clear. Silence fell. I watched my daughter's layers of masks slide off her face. Denial, then fear, then cold computation. Marcus asked, nearly out of breath, how bad are we looking? Repayment of $50,000, plus fines usually doubled or tripled. Total liability could reach $142,000, Clara said plainly. And the federal sentencing range is up to 20 years. In addition, fraud charges permit authorities to seize and freeze accounts. Vanessa turned on me, shrieking, "You bastard! You're going to put your own daughter in prison?" I straightened, my voice low and clear. "It is your choices that brought you here, Vanessa. This is insane. We're family," she snapped, lunging to her feet, knuckles white on the armrest. "I agree, family," I replied without looking away. "But family does not steal a father's identity." Clara pushed the final file into the center of the table and issued an ultimatum. 40 days. Option 1. Voluntarily surrender to federal authorities, cooperate, and make restitution. Option 2. I file criminal charges and the FBI will take over. Vanessa broke into furious tears, rage, not remorse. "You are ruining our lives just for money." I looked at her, each word heavy as stone. "No, you are destroying your own lives by casting me as a penniless ghost before the government while draining my savings. When you called me a burden, I understood. It's time to stop being a lender and let justice do the accounting." Under the cold halo of the desk lamp, the family story ended like an indictment. The clock on the wall continued to count down the 40 days remaining. 40 days. That was the time I gave them before the file would be sent to the federal authorities. Those 40 days crawled by like an avalanche already broken, loose from the peak, unstoppable. I sat in the warmth of my hotel room, slashing through squares on the calendar one by one. Each red stroke was a cut of the blade, a heartbeat tightening in the chests of Vanessa Caldwell and Marcus Hale. Day 7. Messages from guests flooded social media. Where's the reception? What happened to the Caldwell's wedding? The whispers of humiliation began to torch the very reputation they had fought to maintain. Day 15. A for sale sign was drilled into the front lawn. It swayed in the wind, its shadow slicing across the kitchen where I once lit birthday candles for my daughter. Neighbors gathered to whisper, and no one needed an explanation. Day 20. They scrambled from bank to bank, begging for loans. Denied. Too much debt, too little credibility. I heard Marcus left one branch pale as chalk, while Vanessa sat in the car, choking on sobs. Day 25. A gleaming SUV rolled up. A tech executive from Los Angeles stepped out, signed papers, and paid in cash. To him, it was just real estate. To me, it was proof. Their grand dream reduced to a liquidation sale, tossed aside like excess baggage. During all 40 days, I received only one call from Vanessa. Her voice cracked, brittle as crumpled paper. "Dad, please don't. We'll do anything. Pay it back. Apologize in public. Even go to family therapy. Just please stop." I answered quietly, every word cold as ice. "You buried yourselves with your own hands, Vanessa. You call it helping, not stealing? No, it is federal fraud, and I will not pull you out of the grave you dug." A long silence followed. Then she asked, clinging to a shred of hope, "Dad, what do you really want from us?" I closed my eyes, recalling the night she told me I was a burden, that I should disappear. When I opened them again, my voice was resolute. "You told me to vanish, so I will, but I'll be taking my money with me." Day 40. I kept my promise. Clara Whitmore pressed send, and the criminal complaint was transmitted straight to the FBI Medicare Fraud Task Force. The dry ding of the email leaving her outbox sounded like the strike of a gavel. Outside my hotel window, Monterey remained serene, children playing, families sharing Sunday lunch. But in some federal office, a file stamped with the names Vanessa Caldwell and Marcus Hale had just been received, and with it, the world they clung to finally collapsed. 7 o'clock on Wednesday morning. Red and blue lights strobed across white walls. Heavy pounding rattled the door like hammer blows, jolting the entire Monterey neighborhood awake. Boots of federal agents thundered against the tile, followed by the sharp command, "FBI, open up now." Neighbors peeked through curtains, some even lifted phones to live stream. Within minutes, the whole street knew something catastrophic was unfolding. I wasn't there, but Helen Hale, Marcus's mother, called to deliver the news. Her voice trembled, broken in gasps. "Henry, they came with handcuffs." Vanessa screamed. "My father set this up. This is his scheme. He's lost his mind. He's trying to kill us this way." She thrashed as if she were the victim. Marcus just froze, like a deer caught in headlights. I listened, then said one short line, cold as steel. Even at the end, she's still performing, only this time her audience is federal agents. That evening, local news broke the story. Monterey couple arrested in Medicare fraud scheme. My name wasn't mentioned, but anyone watching the footage recognized Vanessa Caldwell instantly. Her once immaculate hair hung in tangles, a heel snapped, her designer dress crumpled, her makeup streaked with tears, and above all, the gleam of handcuffs on her wrists became the centerpiece of her final act. Financial punishment struck like a tidal wave. The government froze every account to recover the $50,000 in fraud. The IRS slammed on additional penalties of $95,000. Credit cards were canceled, the car loan recalled. A domino chain collapsed, wiping out their financial life in weeks like a sandcastle swallowed whole by the sea. But true justice wasn't just in numbers. It was in the humiliation Vanessa feared most. Her college friends, the very ones who had flown in for a wedding that never happened, flooded social media. Photos of her being led away in cuffs spread across Facebook and Twitter, captioned with biting mockery, "Bride of the Year." And Marcus Hale? His company fired him immediately. His professional record blacklisted. Colleagues cut off contact. No business wanted ties with a man under federal investigation. They were forced out of the dream home bought with my money, relocating to a dingy Monterey apartment, 3rd floor, peeling paint, windows overlooking a dusty parking lot. From Monterey paradise to cramped hell in just a 40-minute drive. And so, the glittering world they once draped themselves in, the wedding dress, the champagne, the grand house, the lavish parties, survived only in the memories of neighbors, in mocking videos online, and in the federal file stamped with the names Vanessa Caldwell and Marcus Hale. 6 months after the arrest, one afternoon, I stepped into a small grocery store in Monterey. Soft golden lights spilled down the aisles lined with boxes of cereal, fresh fruit, neatly displayed cuts of meat and fish. The warmth and abundance of it all only sharpened the contrast with a frail figure standing at the far end. It was Helen Hale. Her hair had turned whiter, her eyes sunken, her clothes disheveled. She clutched a grocery bag tightly, her hands trembling. I noticed how she avoided the gaze of everyone around her, as though terrified that anyone might recognize the shameful secret of her family. I stopped. "Helen, how are they living now?" My voice was calm, though inside I wasn't sure I even wanted the answer. She looked at me, hesitated, then released a heavy sigh. "Vanessa spends 8 hours in a windowless room, answering calls no one wants to make. Marcus hauls loads at construction sites, work that comes and goes. They're barely scraping by, Henry. They're only shadows of who they used to be." She lifted her gaze, eyes blurred with tears, bitter, yet still pleading. "They may have done wrong, but they're still your blood. You truly feel no mercy for them at all?" For a moment, I was silent. In my mind, a memory surfaced. Margaret smiling softly in our old kitchen, her hand clasping mine. Then, the image dissolved, replaced by the sight of Vanessa being led away in handcuffs, her hair disheveled, her eyes cold with betrayal. I looked directly at Helen, my voice flat and hard as a verdict. "Mercy? I paid with 3 years of my life and $142,000. The only thing I regret is letting them take from me for so long." She lowered her head, saying nothing. I drew a deep breath, letting my words resound, as though speaking to myself as much as to her. And now, I breathe freely. I eat a meal without walking on eggshells. I sleep without dreaming of bills or their constant disdain. I am free, Helen, and I will never hand that away again. Helen turned, slowly making her way toward the checkout counter, her small frame diminished, adrift. I remained where I stood, bathed in the store's warm light, feeling for the first time in years the simplicity of peace. No more burdens. No more manipulation. No more shame. I had reclaimed not only my money but my dignity, and to me, that was true freedom. The greatest wedding gift I ever received wasn't wrapped in a box, it was the raw, unvarnished truth. I finally saw who they really were. Now, I sit in my new seaside apartment in Santa Barbara, where the sun sets over the Pacific in blazing fire, painting the sky in gold and crimson. The crash of waves against the rocks below has replaced the heavy dinners once weighed down by judgment and silence during those 3 lost years. Freedom, I've learned, never comes cheaply but once claimed. It becomes the most precious treasure. This apartment costs more in monthly rent than most people pay for their mortgages, but I can afford it. When the old house sold, my 45% share brought in $132,000 after fees. And without bleeding money to sustain the lavish lifestyle of Vanessa Caldwell and Marcus Hale, my finances are healthier than they've been in years. But true wealth isn't measured in numbers. It rests in the peace of mind that comes from no longer weighing every word to avoid someone's rage. It lives in the freedom to choose without fearing the disappointment of ungrateful children. And most of all, it lies in dignity in being valued for who I am, not for how much I can provide. I've joined a small community book club. There, dinner invitations come from genuine warmth, not calculation. Last month, I began volunteering at the local animal shelter, something Margaret Caldwell and I once dreamed of doing together. Now, her photograph sits proudly on the mantel in this apartment, no longer hidden away in some distant living room. Sometimes I still speak to that photograph, telling her about new friends, about a life being rebuilt, piece by piece. Yesterday, I whispered, "You were right, Margaret. Love without boundaries is nothing more than slow suicide." People sometimes ask if I miss Vanessa and Marcus. The answer is no. I miss the shadow of the daughter I once imagined, not the betrayer in handcuffs. I do not miss the tension, the drained bank accounts, or the daily contempt. 3 weeks ago, I received a letter from Vanessa, written from the county jail where she serves 6 months before facing federal court. She claimed to have learned her lesson, begged for reconciliation once she's free. I tore the letter in 2 and let it fall into the trash, a burned bridge never to be rebuilt. At 72, I am happier than I have been since the day Margaret passed. I wake not with dread, but with eagerness for the day ahead. I've even begun seeing a gentle woman, also named Margaret Fate's strange joke. We walk the beach together, sharing our life stories, our unfinished dreams, and even our blood-soaked lessons. And if you're watching this, recognizing yourself in my story, if you've been used as an ATM by those who claim to love you, let me tell you this. You deserve more. You deserve respect, gratitude, and true affection, not manipulation disguised as love. Setting boundaries is not cruelty, it is survival. Saying no to those who exploit you is not selfish, it is self-preservation. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is let them face the consequences of their own choices. Family is not a free pass for abuse. Blood does not give anyone the right to strip you of your money, your home, or your dignity. True family will never force you to choose between self-respect and their approval. It took me 72 years to learn that lesson. Don't wait as long as I did. This betrayal has reminded me of something vital. God gives us the strength to see when love has rotted into enablement. He places harsh choices before us so that we may learn our worth. I've come to understand God never intended for us to sacrifice our dignity just to keep the peace with those who exploit us. The greatest betrayals often rip the mask away, revealing who people truly are. Vanessa and Marcus showed me their nature when they thought I was powerless. But God had another plan, to shield me with legal documents I had nearly forgotten I'd signed. So here is the final lesson. We teach others how to treat us. When we accept disrespect in the name of family, we enable destruction. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are necessary for growth, for everyone. At 72, I've discovered that true happiness doesn't come from indulging others, but from surrounding myself with people who genuinely honor me. If this story has touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below, Have you ever had to choose between family harmony and your self-respect? And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of resilience and strength, because if you don't stand up for your dignity, someone else will bury it for you.